and the lull before the storm, as we are headed into the weekend where Donald Trump and the G20 are going to meet, and on the sidelines, he will meet India, the Prime Minister of India, and more importantly, the meeting between Premier Xi from China. Now, there is a lot of build up and hope that a lot of things can get resolved, and we hope there's a breakthrough in the trade tariff talks. In the meantime, in this 1 month after the election, we've seen markets do nothing. 3 weeks back, we were at 11,800, and even today we are at 11,800. Only thing is that the broader market has seen a lot of whipsaw action with a lot of big names, which were erstwhile big names, have got decimated, and some of their place has been taken by much more prudent names which have outperformed, the likes of Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, and some of the PSU banks which have led from the front, ICICI, Axis, and SBI. Now that's telling you that the market is very discerning in this move, and the discerning part meant that the top stocks have only outperformed, and the bottom ones are getting more and more weaker. But that's typical of a market which is driven by news, and where the expectation from the budget firstly would be that this liquidity problem of pass through, that should get corrected. We know that rates have headed lower, but on the contrary, the pass on effect has not been there to the NBFCs, and hence this liquidity scramble. So you know where the pain lies, and a lot of those names have got hurt because of collateral selling, and which may continue for some time. Secondly, today there was again a diktat from SEBI on the liquidity side, on some funds on the liquid side, where they've said to disintegrate between promoter lending and loan against share. Now, there's not too much of that, but that has existed as one of the businesses where mutual funds were making smart, fee-based income. But I think that will be painful for till the time the liquidity is managed. We still think the PSU banks and some of the corporate lenders which are sitting on high CASA, they will be the big beneficiaries, the likes of ICICI, Axis, and SBI. You can go down to the ladder of the PSU banks, given that there is expectation that recapitalization or issuance of bonds again is on the anvil in the budget. All that means that the budget will have a lot of expectation, and anything falling short can see the market correct, because we are in a realm where earnings have not caught up, and we are still caught up in this liquidity problem where the weaker mid caps have got hurt. However, we think that this could be the last quarter of pain. We are very, very positive on the market after this September, October, and where we think earnings, the broader market will start to outperform, and hence we think all corrections in mid caps should be used as a buying opportunity, but with a slightly longer term view. The view means that you should be looking at the next 12 to 18 months at least if you are invested there, because only then will real wealth be created. Globally, you know that gold has been one of the star performers after almost 4 years of doing nothing, and in this one and a half months, it's up 11%. Now that also is a part of the weakness which you've seen in the dollar. The dollar, by the way, was at a 3 to 4 month low, and which is telling you that the alternate currency aside from the dollar, which used to be the euro, is again weak because of the advent of because of the advent of the ECB chief also now printing more money and announcing more quantitative easing, which means that bond yields are now okay, which means bond yields are at 3-year lows, and which can only mean good news for emerging market and riskier assets. We've seen that in oil, we've seen that in gold, and we've seen that in emerging market. The MSCI indexed in June is up 5.5%, whereas the Nifty has done nothing. But that happens to be, more of a play where the budget as a big event is there. So once you are through with this meeting over the weekend, and we think then the only event which is much awaited will be the budget. As it is in this run up, you've seen that the rupee has been one of the stronger currencies, and today you closed at almost April we saw this level of below 69. So it tells you that the smart money definitely is seeing the rupee strength, and hence it means that foreign flows will be more directed towards India given the strength of the rupee, both in the bond market and in equities. Now the scenario where we are is that we still grapple with the broader market, and you know the reasons for that. But I think, like I said, this 3 months will be the hiatus, after which we think earnings and some of the measures which we expect from the budget to be game changers, in the sense that there is talk of a stressed fund which can extend up to 10,000 crore. That will give a big window. Today the RBI talked of a lending window to some of the microfinance companies. And three, they can definitely initiate separate window for NBFCs to ease some of the pain. Now, fourthly, we think that the three windows, consumption, investment, and exports, these are the three where the government has to focus, and we'll know their game plan once the budget is out. Uh, on the other hand, the government has a big diktat on disinvestment, where strategic disinvestment can also be another strategic play. But in the meantime, we know the government's own finances are weak after such a big election, and some of the spending not coming in on a lot of things. So we think the fiscal at 4 lakh crore will definitely be a cause of concern. But given that bond yields, rupee, oil, all are strong, we think the government can even miss the fiscal by a bit to initiate the much needed consumption stroke investment demand. And that can be through capex, both on the government side, and initiate some of the infrastructure projects where public private partnership will start to take place. The rupee has been very stable. Oil prices are range bound, and if we do get some breakthrough here, I think gold is definitely headed lower if there is positive breakthrough on the US China tariffs. In the other thing is that in the consumption, we have three phases: the durables, discretionary, and staple. The durables have done extremely well given the strong heat wave which we've seen in the country, and we last spoke of these stocks. Havels, Voltas, Blue Star, they've all been very, very big star performers in the last 2 months. Autos have started to show a lot of rev up, and if I can name a few stocks, I think some of the OEMs are bottoming out. That is Motherson, Apollo, and Exide. On the autos itself, I think Ashok Leyland, M&M, and Bajaj Auto are showing a lot of traction. So a select ETF or some funds which have an auto exposure would be good news there, or a direct exposure as a SIP. The other category where I think metals is going to be a game changer, given if China comes back on stream. Already you've seen shutdown of a lot of steel mines in some of the steel production in China, which has seen a very, very strong effect on the prices of steel. We still think that there is displacement in copper and steel, and that those prices could be elevated for some time. But real demand will only come in the Indian context from the government and the capex which they unleash. So consumer, discretionary, and staples, these are both going to be outperformers, but you need a slightly longer window, because now you'll be seeing after the next 3 months the coming of the festival season and much delayed spending which has been postponed in the last 1 year or 6 months. That should start to show a lot of traction. The Nifty, if I can tell you, from hitting a high of 12,103, we hit a low of 11,641, which meant a correction of almost 462 points. And a 50% retracement is close to 11,872. We did fiddle with 11,900, but we've not been able to cross convincingly over the 50% retracement. And that tells you that somehow some sector stocks are definitely weak. On the other side, the Bank Nifty hit a high of 31,783 and a low of 30,220, a fall of almost 1,563 points. And surprisingly, that has retraced 61%, that is at 31,173, which is showing you that the Bank Nifty is definitely an outperformer. And we think that is more to do with prudent bond yields, falling yields, outperformance of PSUs, and expectations from the budget, along with more emphasis on retail lending as a fiasco of the NBFCs. The other point to note is that the US dollar is extremely weak in the sense on a 4 week high, 4 week low. Bonds are hitting 6.83, and oil has been more or less range bound with an upward bias in the last week. The other part which we more stressful is the liquidity, and for which we think the RBI and the government of India both can initiate a lot of measures which can ease this in the budget and beyond. So we think that metals, autos, select autos, capex are the one places where you will make money. Cement, construction, capex, and corporate bank continue to be the favorite. They are India centric, and those stocks and sectors can see outperformance. And contrarian, like we said, OEMs, auto, and metals should be good. Now, pharma has staged a sharp recovery here on back of some smart buy recommendations on 2, 3 large foreign broking houses. Hence, on a valuation basis, I think Lupin, Sun, Dr. Reddy all merit a sip or a buy on declines, because they can be much more better performers, given that the rupee now, which was a tailwind, is a headwind given the strength of the rupee, which may not play out very well on the IT companies. So I think pharma could be a dark horse. Now, like I've said, we've given you stocks, we've given you recommendation. We still think Axis, ICICI, SBI on the large cap corporate banks, Motherson Sumi, Apollo Tyre, Exide are the OEMs, Ashok Leyland, M&M, Bajaj Auto. In the mid cap banks, it's Federal Bank, DCB, IDFC First, Nestle, Tata Global, Marico are some of the outperformers on the FMCG side, with ITC still being my favorite as an accumulate. It has very little downside and it can startly outperform on the upside. L&T, BHEL, Siemens, all three are looking very good on the capex side. And you have, the names which we took on the pharma side, those are also looking good. I think I can, now interact with you more on the question and answers and try and answer how much we can. We've given you a review, and we are also always there. If you have any feedback or any questions, answers, or anything on the macros, please write to us or let us know through your RM. We will definitely get back to you. With this, I'll leave it now for question and answers. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. It was a fairly exhaustive overview that you have given. My question is with respect to the oil marketing companies, especially given the fact that US and Iran relationship is with really bad phase and oil is boiling up. So what's your take on oil marketing company and also companies like Castrol and Tidewater Oil?
Yeah, good point. Now, see, I think that India's dependence on Iran is definitely now shrunk in the last 3 months, after we heard the first time that Trump was coming out with a sanction on oil lending to India and China. Though China still continues to draw more oil from Iran. If they can reach some agreement, it's a positive. But I think oil marketing companies are more or less priced in most of it. What is weak on the oil side has been made up by the dollar. And you know that we live on a day-to-day basis on when we buy oil. I think the government can do a lot if they start to give some of the capex and expansion on oil marketing companies. But I think that they have been relative outperformers, and I still see room on the upside, given that PSUs have been under the fire for the last 2, 3 years. I think PSUs are here to outperform for the next 2 years, given the strong mandate of the government, and given that there is no interference on pricing as far as any subsidies go. On Tidewater Oil, it's one of the best PSUs as a strategic, and I think it will continue to be one of the best lubricant plays. But right now, the market is showing no solace towards good, well-run mid-cap stocks. So stay with the large caps. As a disclosure, I think GAIL at these 305.8 levels as a gas utility along with IGL, MGL can be star outperformers if you have a 1.5 year view.
Thanks a lot, sir. And finally, what's your take on Castrol?
So Castrol again has been one of the better performers, but recently has started to underperform after some of the selling by BP, which has a major sale. It still is one of the best run MNCs and continues to be outperformers. Only you'll have to watch out how fast electric vehicles make a beeline, because then lubricants will definitely find it a little bit of a pain. But stay with it. It has always rewarded shareholders with a slightly longer term view.
Thank you, sir. Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So what's your take on this US-China trade? If it goes through the dollar, the crude does. If it doesn't, the crude remains. So either way, is a double-edged sword for India.
No, I think it's a myth created by media more about crude. If you see the markets, they do very well the day crude is up actually. Actually, we've had a very smart rally when crude has rallied to 65, 70. Now, I'm not making weak, but let's not keep just crude as a guy as one hedge. I think crude itself shows global growth, and global growth is something which is totally missing. In fact, the weaker crude gets, you've seen the correlation. Equity markets don't do well. Now, in the Indian context, like I said, if crude remains in this barrel of 63 to 68, it's well enough. If the China thing comes up, I think a lot of built up is there on crude, and I think that can get released. We also know that Saudi has been able to dodge the bullets regarding the murder of that, the journalist, and they would not want crude to go out of sync in the present range. So crude in a range bound is okay. In fact, it's a positive given that most of the exporters would do well if crude remains over here. So I'm not so bearish on crude, neither am I taking it as a negative on India. And on US China, I think the countermanding is enough. They will come out with some sort of a arrangement. Maybe it gets prolonged for some time, but there will be no negative rhetoric.
Okay. And are the market pricing in any escalation of
Can you repeat it? Any escalation on?
Iran tension?
Yeah, it's more or less there. We all know, that was one incident of the drone, and I think the US dodged bullets. They didn't go far, but it's typical Donald Trump. He's going to be headed for an election year. He's going to show you he's a big bully. I don't think it'll have much of an effect, and we know that these are very sensitive places and positions. So safeguarding against them is difficult. Now everyone is watching and wanting a correction in the market, but when it comes, that's a problem. You're not able to buy, because if this Nifty falls 500 points, I can tell you, rather than buying, you'll be only waiting and watching on the sideline for the next bad news or good news.
Right.
पैसा तो वो तो डेबिट बैंक में नहीं हुआ तो डेबिट नहीं हुआ ना, सिंपल सी बात है. I have one more question with regards to your view on Reliance industry. Now, recently, two fund houses have come out and downgraded the stock before the darling of the stock market in the last couple of months. But it's doing the sideline movement. So, what's your view in terms of Reliance industry?
Yeah, good point. Now, see, Reliance has been a huge wealth creator in the last 2 years. It did nothing for 6 years, and suddenly in the last 2 years, it has gone up 2.5 times. And yes, when it's there, you know that these are FI favorite and overowned stocks. So brokerage reports will definitely try to make money on the selling side. It can fall to what 1130 to 1180 to 1200. But I think if you are looking for the next 2-3 years, then you should not waste this opportunity, because I am definite that from an 8 lakh crore, Reliance is headed to the 10 lakh crore in the next 2 years. It is now not only dependent on energy, but on the technology side, it is growing very fast. It's taken on the likes of Netflix and Amazon, and I think it's more of a technology play on the growth numbers, where you should be surprised on the upside given Jio's strong market share gain. So like I said, it's a bottom up from here, but you'll have to prolong your outlook. If I'm looking at the Nifty at hitting 13,000 in the end of the year, then Reliance will definitely be also one of the constituents which will leave it up to maybe 1400. So I know there's a lot of pain on the likes of DHFL, Yes Bank, but that's part and parcel. We know some of the managements have been under cloud, and the problem on Yes Bank, I think personally, till the time they raise, there is a problem in raising cash. The day they raise money, that will be the bottom. They've already indicated that their cost of money will be more expensive, about 125 basis point. Now the raising of the money also is two tantamount. One, locally there is liquidity which is dried up, but two, I think globally Qs are very positive on raising money, and I think if they can be smart, merchant banker and some of the presentations, then this should be a very, very good opportune time for raising cash. Once they raise that 750 million to $1 billion, then this company will be out of the woods and would be look good. So wait for the day you hear that it's picked up, it's raised cash. That would be a good time to buy. IndusInd Bank, on the other hand, is looking very good after the merger. There will be one or two, maybe one more quarter of pain on the ILFS side, but I think that going forward, the merger with the Bharat Financial should see a lot of positives pan India basis on the retail side. And if you have a 9 months to 1 year window, you could be pleasantly surprised on the upside. Aside from the fact that the promoters have also upped their stake at a 17-18% premium. It's very difficult to give a comment on penny stocks like Arcom and some of the others like Syntex. Anybody who has a leverage and an overseas FCCB are under pressure because cost of money has gone up and collateral has been sold. IDFC First Bank still remains a very, very sweet spot. It is gaining market share. Its CASA ratio is going on. I think you have a very good risk reward in the next 1.5 years of at least getting 50 to 70% returns. So stay with it. On metals, I think most of the weakness in Tata Steel, JSW may be done with. You should use it as a SIP to buy. If you have a slightly longer term view, that could be outperformer. Same is the case with SAIL. I think SAIL will do very well on the export side and should be seeing much more positive. And if you have a 9 months to 1 year window, benefit the price of the upside. Aside from the fact that the promoters have also upped their stake at a 17-18% premium.
Hello.
Yes. Any more question?
Hello.
Yes.
It's very difficult to give a comment on penny stocks like Arcom and some of the others like Syntex.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Please tell me about the future of NBCC stock.
Yeah. Now NBCC has done nothing much, but I can tell you that in the next 1 year, this stock should give stellar returns on the back that all the problem which you've seen in the construction side will now spill over to NBCC getting a larger share. Execution has been missing despite having a very strong order book. And I think that this stock is going to be a huge outperformer, given that execution now on the PMC business is seeing much more traction. We think in this quarter itself, we will hear of the go-ahead by the Supreme Court on the Kidwai Nagar and on the Naroji Nagar projects. And we think that they will be definitely big gainers, given that a large part of the errand builders projects are going to be given to them. So execution should start to see a lot of stream from here. I don't rule out earnings catching up of 20, 25, 30% in the next 1 year. Stay put if you can and hold, because this stock could definitely surprise on the upside.
Hello.
Yes.
What is your view on UPL?
Yeah, good point. Now, UPL has been a very, very big outperformer in the recent fall from 750 all the way to 1100. But now there is some downgrade on the Brazilian business and some of the over leverage. But let me tell you, I think the promoter is a very, very realistic person. He has always been an outperformer.
Your conference is now in lecture mode.
And
only chairpersons will be heard.
And I think that Mr. Shroff has led from the front. I think all the money which is over leverage is definitely in the realm of the business itself, and it becomes a huge outperformer over a period of time. In the near term, cost of money going up is definitely a cause of concern, but I think they can mitigate that from some foreign borrowings. Their cash on balance sheet should do well, but we will have to wait for the monsoon. I think that and Rallies India could be huge outperformers if you have a more than a 1 year window. You need to stay in these stocks with 1 year because agrochemical pesticides are going to do extremely well once the onset of the monsoon comes in. By the way, I think the monsoon will be very pleasantly surprising in the month of July, August, and it will make up for all the shortfalls. Yeah, any other question? कुछ लोग हिंदी के लिए पूछ रहे हैं, तो हिंदी में मैं बता दें कि अगले 3 महीने बाजार में थोड़ा सा उतार चढ़ाव आएगा, लेकिन अगर आप अक्टूबर के बाद देखेंगे तो अर्निंग्स और मिड कैप का अंडर परफॉर्मेंस खत्म हो जाएगा. हमें लगता है सरकार इस बजट में काफी कुछ कर सकती है जिससे जो मिसट्रस्ट और कॉन्फिडेंस है लेंडिंग में वो वापस आ जाए. एक स्ट्रेस फंड आ सकता है मिड एनबीएफसी के लिए. एनबीएफसी के लिए डायरेक्ट विंडो हो सकती है या बॉन्ड इश्यूएंस हो सकती है. पीएसयूज के लिए रिकैपिटलाइजेशन और बॉन्ड इश्यूएंस भी हो सकती है. और गवर्नमेंट कैपेक्स पे काफी दारोमदार रखेगी जिससे ग्रोथ, जीडीपी, जॉब सब आए. तो 3 महीने के लिए बाजार उतार चढ़ाव रह सकता है क्योंकि अर्निंग मिसिंग है या कम है, लेकिन एक बार ये आ जाए और ये लिक्विडिटी का क्राइसिस खत्म हो जाए, हमें लगता है ईयर एंड और उसके बियॉन्ड बहुत ही अच्छा टाइम आएगा. तो अक्टूबर के बाद बाजार बहुत बढ़िया है. तो आप यहाँ से अगर लेंगे तो 18 महीने का नजरिया रखें, आप बहुत अच्छा कमाएंगे in the next 18 months. Any other question?
So can I announce for question and answer?
Yes, please.
Participants, if you have any question, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad. I repeat, if you have any question, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad. We have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Please go ahead, sir. Question comes from the number 9416794125. Please go ahead with your question. Sir, could you please go ahead with your question?
Please guide me future of plywood stocks.
Yeah, good point. Now, plywood stocks have done nothing much, or wo mid cap mein they have underperformed. But that's more to do with the mid cap carnage which we've seen, where compulsively some of the mutual funds have had to reduce exposure. We still think that Century Ply and a couple of other names are good longer term investments because the capex, once it starts, low cost housing, decorative segment, paints, plywood, all that will stand out in good stead once consumption spending starts to come. And the government has all the via media which they can in this budget instigate that. So budget should be a game changer. And like I said, 2020 can bode very good news for some of these sectors and stocks. So stay put. If you are stuck, don't average more, but wait for the impediments. Once we get through this budget, we can analyze it. October onwards, I would think there will be a fresh wave of buying in this sector and certain stocks can outperform.
Participants, if you have any question, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad. Participants, if you have any question, please press star and 1 on your telephone keypad. As of now, we don't have any questions, sir.
Okay, ma'am, then we'll close it now. We'll leave it. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes your conference call for today. You may all disconnect the lines. Thank you.
देख लेना.